Okay, let's hang on 1 second, please. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at this. Welcome to Hunrath. Please give us a bit of information about you so we can get to know you a little better. Name, date you came from, please use 4-digit year, where you came from, country and city, circumstance under which you were taken. Please note any dangers you noticed. Emptied and filed, 12,000 AH, 13,000 AH, 15,000 AH. Okay, this is kind of hard to read, but I'll do my best. Samuel Kiran, January 2017. Menakara, Madagascar. I had just arrived and was driving my supply truck along the coast south of Menakara when I recall being washed away and the seed appeared. 15,257 AH, male 61. By the way, the AH means after Hunrath. I presume it's days, not years. Is that you? Uzio Rigambogen. 1942, March. Lübeck, Germany. The last thing I recall is a large rumbling while I was hiding in the cellar of a vacant building. I ran toward a bright light in a stairwell. 15,041 AH, male 26. Maria Gallego, 1998. Cozumel, Mexico. On my boat and bad storm. 16,023 AH, female 46. Zhang Qiu, March of 2042. Portland, United States of America. Skiing, can't tell what that says. Skiing hood, I guess. 16,717 AH, male 37. March of 2042, that's 17 years in the future from now. And if he was 37 in that year, that means he'd be 20 years old, I believe, right now. Okay. Now we looked at this earlier. I want to take a better look at it now. Let's see. Seed pair. Find planets with similar atmospheres. Swap. Tree from seed. Heart. Heart connected. Path open when mature. Hard superposition. 4 species meet. What happens at fruition? Swap where? Home, when, may be dead. More seed pairs scattered throughout the universe. Why scattering? We have here Soya, Morphing, and Earth. I'm going to take a picture of this real quick here. Oh, back a reward item. Interesting. Okay. Hang on. Okay. Okay.
Well, I feel like I should assume that Shavar, well, the attack is inevitable. We just don't know when. So Shavar and her family, and others she trusts, I guess. Well, they'll arrive when they can, without giving, like covertly. So the plan will happen, in spite of our. We're locking down as much as possible here and moving everybody out. CW will stay here, and I'll go to Murray at the last possible moment. Most are gone. There's just a few left here now. The mayor got out early. I don't even know why I'm recording this. It's like somehow we'll live on or something. I guess this has meaning if someone listens, but who? A new one? A new arriver. Oh, God, the kiosk out front. I need to update that message.
That may be it. It'll stop on its own. Okay. Oops. Okay, we can turn it around.
We all lost everything. Everything but our stories. And they shouldn't be forgotten. I was 3. It was April of 1983. Cecil, it was 1870 for you. Sam and Vera, you tell it like it was yesterday, but it's been 62 years since you saw that blast of light. And that's where all of our news stories began, that light. It streaked across the sky, mesmerizing, but unnerving. Some of you were alone. I wasn't. My dear grandma, God bless her, rejoiced as if it was some forebearer of good fortune. Vera, you said you recall smiling. None of us understood. But, well, we followed. Whether it was in the deep woods like Cecil or right outside town like Jane and Jenny, we were drawn to see more. Grandma lifted me from the carriage on the porch and walked into the yard so we could watch it unobstructed. Even in daylight, Joseph, you said it was gloriously bright. But in the twilight, it was spellbinding. And we all felt some kind of trepidation and yet attraction as we approached it, and it approached us. So close, so radiant, and that sound, deep and vibrant, organic,
2:30 in the morning. December 26, 1948. May 7th, 2009. September 3rd, 1995. I was down by the river. I was hiking in the desert. In the park with my grandson. I looked up and saw a brilliant flash of light that exploded in the sky. The light, it flew into the clouds and behind some trees and it disappeared. I looked around and, to see if there was anyone around. See if anyone else had seen what I had seen. There was no one around. They all saw it too. Bob definitely saw it. Well, it was just beautiful. There was something calming about it. Yeah, I don't mind telling you I was kind of freaking out. I tried to follow it, tried to get a better look at it. Wanted to see it again. I came to a place where it had disappeared. Overlooked, but I found nothing. And it streaked through the sky again. It seemed like it was looking for something. Or looking for someone. And then it found me. And it found me. Found me. Found me. Found me. Found me. Found me. And it found me.
Well, that was certainly interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to take a look at this projector here. Ooh. That's interesting. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be a picture of. Hang on. In the tower, the circles that go here. Oh. Hang on. Ooh, interesting. Let's we can pull this down here. Well, that's unexpected. Let's get a picture of that. It might be important. And more stuff to read. I shall document the curious events that have transpired with myself, my family, friends, and co-workers. Hunrath was a peaceful mining town founded by my grandfather and nestled within the bedrock of the desert in the Arizona Territory. Its 163 inhabitants heard a mighty explosion on the night of June 27th, 1903. I sent several workers through the town to verify that the explosion had not caused any injuries or damage to mining equipment. They returned and reported that it must have been a loud clap of thunder caused by dry lightning, but they found no damage. It was not until the light of the next morning that we were amazed to realize something profound had indeed occurred. At some point during that night, our entire mining facility and a large circle of the land around it seemed to have been scooped up and carried off to a completely different place, all without anyone knowing about it. Okay, we'll read this in just a moment. I need to pause my recording for just a second. Alright, The entire landscape outside of our circle of desert could only be described as alien. Large floating rocks could be seen in the distance. No one had ever seen anything like it anywhere on Earth. We fully explored our new surroundings, hoping to find a way home. No way home was ever found. In fact, we soon discovered what we take for granted now. Not only could we not get back home, we also could not access the landscape outside the desert. Curiously, we discovered that a flow of water was provided from a high point of rock, and we discovered a small... Sorry about that. We discovered that a flow of water was provided from a high point of rock, and we discovered a small tree growing in the very center of the circle. A central tree that is so important to our lives here was just a mere seedling back then, sapling back then. Oops, I don't want to pick that up just yet. Okay. Species description. Morphing. Through ambassador seeds, the Morphing were the first non-human species humans were introduced to. An Ling was the first to call the alien a Morphing, impressed with their advanced ability to imitate our sounds, movements, and mannerisms. Although they have a name for themselves, their language is mostly unpronounceable by humans. As a result, and because of their mimicry abilities, communication with the Morphing is primarily accomplished by their learning human languages, rather than humans learning to speak Morphing. They have been able to learn almost every human language represented in Hunrath, enough to provide functional, if rudimentary, communication. The Morphing basic external morphology is remarkably humanoid. Bilateral, symmetrical, tetrapods, bipedal, head with interior facial features, mouth, eyes, nostrils. Other external features include minimal body hair and raised dorsal protrusions. Constitution is somewhat frail, due apparently to their thin and lightweight internal structure, but internal investigation has not been possible. They have ample cranial space to account for a substantial brain, and their intelligence is impressive as evidenced by their advanced technology. Awry. After a certain level of maturity and health of the tree, a passage opened at its base. This passage allowed contact with two additional species. The first contact was with the Awry. The first contact revealed the Awry to be large beetle-like insects. We were unable to communicate directly with them in any way, but they appeared to have some rudimentary level of intelligence. It was Loink Tulth who first made the journey through the heart to Kaptar, and named both the New World and the inhabitants. The Awry have three distinct variants that have come to be referred to as barnacle, beetle, and polyarch. Although their morphology is dramatically different from human, their internal systems, like all of our neighbors, are supported by similar atmospheric composition and basic nutrition. In their barnacle stage, the Awry are completely immobile. The Awry stay in this egg-like development state seemingly indefinitely. In order to hatch, they must be in proximity of a polyarch, and fertilized by the beetles after a certain stage of maturity. The beetles are the eyes and ears, hands and feet, with only a minimal nervous system of their own. With only a minimal nervous system of their own, they are essentially the sensory extensions of the immobile polyarchs. They are able to execute simple commands, but apparently have very little in the way of individual sentience. The Uri polyarchs are the intelligence and consciousness of the species. Although it was obvious that there was intelligence behind the species, it wasn't until Caroline Farley began spending large amounts of time in close proximity that deeper communication began. With a room nearby, Farley was the first to communicate non-verbally and learn much about the species, including some historical information. The Uri species survived in their world, while several other sentient species came and went. Among them was an ancient species who formed a deeper relationship with the Uri, carving temples and dwellings for them in the rocks, and later a more recent species that took over much of their home world. This latter species was especially adept at mechanical construction, using it mostly to capture and process large flying creatures, using the beetles as bait. Villain. The final species to be discovered were the Villain. The Villain had been communicating with the Uri for many years through ambassador seeds, but became part of the large community very shortly after the Uri. With a large and imposing frame, and a form of communication based on a complex, multi-voiced, low-frequency rumble, the initial introductions were intimidating. After several attempts, Amelia Vidal was able to begin some rudimentary communication and began visiting the Villain in Moray, which she named. On a regular basis, she discovered a complex and amazing society that was able to use their technology in unexpected ways. They had the ability to quickly transform their world using extruded structures based on some form of complex miniature substrate material. On the other worlds, the Villain sphere was scooped out of a Villain resettlement group that was preparing to set off into space to find a new home world. This was their way of life, to put themselves into stasis and scatter themselves through the stars. As mentioned previously, their appearance is imposing, standing about 9 feet tall, with a distinct reptilian resemblance. They have 6 limbs, 2 muscular legs and arms, and a smaller set of arms. They control every aspect of their technology with their vocalizations, but over the years they have created control panels based on their number system that allow other species to easier access elements of their technology. Whoa. And that's it for that notebook. Let's get on with the next one. Communication. Talking with our neighbors. We take communication for granted, even with the varied languages we find here in Hunrath. But when we suddenly find ourselves among other intelligent species who don't share our culture, history, DNA, or vocal cords, it requires a huge amount of effort for the beginning of rudimentary chatting. This quick overview will set the stage for what to expect when communicating with our neighbors. Morphing. The Morphing were the first non-humans to be met, with at least some level of similar physical vocal generating abilities. They picked up human words quickly. This early mimicry resulted in what the species became to be called. Even though they were able to mimic single words and several phrases, it became evident over the years that huge grammatical differences were not easily overcome. Some have proposed that the difficulty may have arisen because the Morphing insisted on attempting to learn every human language, and as a result were never able to lock onto any consistent grammatical structure. Nevertheless, in spite of the rudimentary sentence construction, It has been very easy to communicate, and it has been unnecessary for us to learn the language beyond a few simple phrases and proper names. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the morphing, please contact Tam. Verlaine. The Verlaine have presented a particular communication challenge. From what we can gather, they produce sounds using two large reed-like structures inside of opposite sides of their heads. The vibrations generated are channeled to resonance chambers in their skulls, where they are combined into a complex, low-frequency dual tone. The low-frequency, bitonal sounds are not only hard for humans to hear and resolve, but are possible for us to mimic. And the Verlaine's hearing is also oriented toward low frequency, so they are unable to hear most of the sounds associated with human speech. Therefore, communication with the Verlaine has relied on technology. They have adapted consoles which the Verlaine fluently control with vocalization for use by other species. Over the years, some individuals of other species, including a few humans, have learned to communicate very effectively using this method. Humans have been able to pick out some higher frequency characteristics of certain key Verlaine words over the years, and although we can't speak to them in a way that the Verlaines can understand, we are occasionally able to hear and recognize these words when spoken distinctly by the Verlaine. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the Verlaine, please contact Vito. Arai. None of the stages of the Arai morphology have any vocalization apparatus. Because of the obvious synchronization of the barnacle, flash, and the ability of the pons to provide for and address the needs of the polyarchs, it was assumed that the species could communicate effectively. It was not until Farley began to spend large amounts of time in the polyarch antechamber that the first clues to this communication became evident. After months of research, Farley began to have limited success with receiving some kind of simple messages that were coming from the polyarchs. It is apparent now that the polyarchs had been attempting to communicate the entire time, but they themselves had been experimenting with various channels until they finally got a response from Farley. After this breakthrough, others were able to tune in to the polyarchs and learn to listen. Both the polyarchs and the pons have a simple organ that can sense human vocal frequency, enabling them to sense simple responses from humans. But over the years, Farley was able to learn to speak to the polyarchs via a related form of extrasensory transmission. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the Arai, please contact Farley. Okay, let's see what this is. Seed information. Ambassador seeds were first documented about 150 Earth years ago. They occur about once every 400 days if the trees remain healthy. Natural seed swaps occur between pairs of seeds that we now know dropped simultaneously from healthy trees in paired sphere. When each seed was touched by a species in sphere, the swap occurred, sending an ambassador from each sphere to the paired sphere. Location of the swap is defined by the locations of the pairs of seeds. After the first swap, the seeds recharge quickly, allowing them for a quick return. First meetings were intense but naturally short. It was quite a surprise for both the Morphing and us. Over time, the seeds required more time to recharge, producing longer visits between species. Collector seeds. Everyone who arrives is familiar with the collector seeds. The bright light that we were all drawn to right before the event that brought us here is a collector seed. One new arrivals may not be aware of is that these seeds, like all seeds, come in pairs. When the tree dropped drops a collector's seed on the ground, it signals that its twin has begun its quest for a new being. That search may take hours or may take years. When an appropriate situation, unnatural threat of death, is found, the seed activates and swaps a smaller but varying sized sphere from Earth, or whatever appropriate home world, here to Hunrath. As Hunrath became more populated, we would watch for a newly dropped collector seed, collect it, and place it in the entry canyon area. This allowed us to provide a more predictable entry experience for new arrivers, and provide a single area to collect any resources that may have come along with a new arriver. Unlike ambassadors, seeds, and mother seeds, collector seeds do not seem to survive. The inner core is spent, leaving only the lifeless outer husk. Mother seeds, postulated but unverified, first suggested by Alima Hamza, 2232 BH, which is before Hunrath. The notion of mother seeds extrapolates the behavior of the lesser seeds to supersede. She posited that the process that actually created the paired spheres was similar to all other swaps, but on a much grander scale. The idea is that two seeds from a mother tree were scattered on the galactic winds to find appropriately similar environments. When matches were found, some process was triggered that swapped large portions of landscape between vastly different worlds. Alima further noted that the trees' locations in the center of the spheres suggested that the trees grew from these mother seeds. Because of the similarities, it has been conjectured that reswapping the entire environmental spheres might be possible, with a larger scale version of the ambassador seed machine. Oh, that's it? Okay. Well, very interesting information right out there. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We don't really need it on anymore. And, whoops, went this way. Before I do anything else, there's one more task I have to do. Probably should have gone the other way, but oh well. Pretty soon we'll be using this bridge. I mentioned earlier that we'll need to close it. So the time's come to do that. I don't remember, though, which way is correct. Ah. Alright. Now we need to go through Caroline's house. Oh, you know what? I just remembered something. I have to get rid of these fake rocks here. Oh, we can do that a little later, I guess. Okay. I need to go back here. For just a minute. Because we need to put that, I guess a sideways 15 into this machine right here. Let's see, if we use this, like that. 406. Okay. Well, we'll keep that in mind. Alright.